What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Oly Kanoli Show. Today I have Aaryan Patel, otherwise known as AP. Please welcome him.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Of course, bro. Nice to meet you. Nice to have you here and talk shop.
Of course, man. No, this has been a long time coming. We've been planning this for quite some time, and now we're here. So
yeah. So of course, I want to start with just asking you, like, what are you passionate about in life?
I guess I can talk about what I'm passionate about currently, right? Because it's I always treat it 24 hours at a time.
Yeah.
So just trying to, me and my business partner, we're just trying to, make some things work. Yeah, just trying to move up in the world. I'm 22 years old, post-grad, Penn State. Just working on business ventures and trying to make sure that we all come out on top. That's really what it is,
So what do you do specifically with like business ventures, or what do you do with your partner?
For sure. So we operate a digital marketing agency. We don't like to call it that because we're more of a performance marketing agency. So, but yeah, we just do client work, more so in the home improvement service like space.
Yeah.
So yeah, we essentially get contractors and different like roofers and home improvement services. We get them more clients, and in return, we get compensated for it.
That's awesome.
Pretty simple.
Do you make a certain amount of revenue or profit that you think is impressive for someone your age, or do you think that you kind of don't care about like the revenue or the profit stream? You think more about what you're building? It's
definitely about more what we're building, because that's kind of why we all start. I don't think it's something, I'm not at all where I want to be, not even close. But the thing is, I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, really building something that you can take really seriously, but at the same time you can detach from whenever you want. And I think that's always been the goal, because this isn't the first thing I've ever tried starting. The first thing I've tried starting, like there's all these different business models out there. There's drop shipping and all that e-commerce stuff.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized that, okay, there's not much leverage in that. So for me to do what I'm doing right now, it's kind of like, okay, let's just build each piece of the puzzle one at a time, and then let's kind of put it all together, right? So that's exactly how we treat this business. And seeing my partner, I'm so lucky to be working with him. If it wasn't for my partner, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
So
having a good relationship with people and making business partners with people who push you and want to succeed with you is like the best feeling.
Absolutely. And the way I look at it is, my business partner, he's so humble. He's just a very good human, right? So the idea is, I was like, if I want to work with someone, I want him to win more than me, because he's just been through so much. He's just an overall phenomenal guy. So I'm like, I want to work with someone that it's not more so just selfish, but it's more so like, I want to see him win. That's why I'm going to put in 200%, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like iron sharpens iron. It's
100%.
like that. It's that feeling of like, yo, like if I put in this work and he puts in this work, we're both succeeding together, and you want them to succeed as much as you want to succeed. So it's like that great, like harmonious relationship with someone.
100%. You couldn't have said it better, honestly.
What is like the way you got into the business that you're in currently?
Oh man, it goes way back. So currently, like I said, I'm in the agency space, so we do a lot of client work. It all started in high school though. So I used to sit next to, he's my mentor now, but I used to sit next to this guy in class, and he would be doing these things, and he would be, for a guy at 16, 17 years old, he was making decent money, right? And I was young, and I come from, an Indian background.
Yeah.
So the entire idea is just to move up in the world, right? I saw what he was doing, and I was like, okay, let's try to emulate this in one way or another, because he's doing well for himself at that age.
Yeah.
So I eventually chatted with him, got, a little conversation going, and, he didn't give me all the, when you ask someone, hey, what do you do? Or like, how do you do it? Or how are you successful, right? They'll typically say, oh, just work hard. I got that so many times when I was first starting out, oh, just work hard. I'm like, okay, that's not what I want to hear, right?
Yeah.
I want to hear the steps and the trials and tribulations you went through. But eventually it got to the point where I was like, okay, no one's going to help me. So I just started working on my own, started doing things. And then he eventually noticed. He's like, okay, look, I can see that you're putting in work without me actually helping you out.
Yeah.
But now I want to help you out a little bit, right? So now I'll answer your questions because I see that you're willing to put the work in. And I get it, right? Because it's more
he like gated you before giving the knowledge or dropping the gems.
100%. That's what it was. He wanted to make sure he wasn't wasting his time.
Yeah.
And I get that. So, some time passes. I meet up with him in person. And I'm doing like this low leverage business model, just super low profit margins, barely making anything actually. And he puts me onto this new business model that he's sort of working on, or at least he's thinking about starting.
Yeah.
And it opened my eyes up to kind of everything I'm doing right now. Just higher leverage business models, right? Like just because something makes sense on paper doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate well in reality.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people think, oh, it all checks out on paper.
Yeah.
But the thing is that you have to test it. A lot of this business stuff, man, no matter what model you're in.
Trial and error. You have to actually
Yes.
apply whatever it is that you're doing.
Exactly. 100%. You have to. Because if you don't, you're going to fall, flat on your face. It's funny because me and my business partner, we always say this. We say we've hit every branch on the way down.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be more true. We've messed up so many times. We've failed so many times. And we still continue to fail. Like, what I mean? That's the best part. Because that's how but we fail forward.
Yeah.
That's
you fail and you learn from that mistake. And it's kind of interesting that you say that because even with me and like things I've learned in business, like no one taught me the things that I learned now. But anytime someone asks me the questions, I kind of realize people don't really know what they even want when they ask questions to me now. Like, hey, what about this? What about this? I'm almost giving them the questions. I'm posing questions for them to ask me because I know that that's what I struggled with. And it's really interesting that someone kind of like put you to the test of like, let me see if he's willing to work. Because like you said, who wants to hear, let's work hard? Well, duh. Right. Everyone knows work hard, you'll succeed at something, right? Anything. But you want to work smart in that direction. Like, because you can grind and work hard all you want in anything in life, but if you're not working smart towards that goal where you're actually going to get an outcome, then what's the point?
100%. No, that's why it all comes down to. At the end of the day, you just have to, I don't think it's very rare to find your niche, like right off the bat. So you kind of have to play around. It's just like sports, right? Like I was never good at baseball. I was never good at swimming, all that stuff. But I had to play like 10 sports to find out, okay, I'm pretty half decent at this or at that. Same idea with business, right? You have to be like, okay, look, what are my personal strengths? What are my partner's personal strengths? And what are we lacking in? You have to be very self-aware of what you have and what you don't have. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. And that's the only way I feel like you can fill in those gaps. Is by knowing what you have and knowing what you don't have. Yeah. So, and that's where you can bring people into your organization, but you have to be very cautious with the people you bring into your organization. And that's when, that whole game comes into play. But yeah, you just have to be brutally self-aware. That's where it comes down to.
Okay. So when you initially started and you had that kind of mentorship and that idea, what was like that first thing that you tried that you might have failed at or that way to get into your niche?
Oh, man. So, as I mentioned, I did drop shipping. So it's a very simple business model. It's D2C. So you're not touching any of the inventory, right? So are you familiar with how it works? Yeah. So for those who may not know, it's, you're essentially finding a supplier who houses a bunch of products, whether, at the time when I was doing it, it's all in China, cheaper cost.
Like Alibaba or AliExpress.
Alibaba, AliExpress. And then, there's a bunch of softwares that come into play, but whatever. But, I was doing that for a while. Then I realized that, okay, look, for every $10,000 of revenue that I'm making, I'm literally pocketing like $750 or $1,000 or like at most like $1,250. Yeah. And it's like, man, I don't have the money to keep on reinvesting, right? So it's at the end of the day, you have to really judge yourself, be like, okay, look, in terms of time and money, what do I have, right? Do I have time? Okay, cool, I have time. Do I have money? No, I don't have money. Fine. I can't bring people on board because I don't have money unless I'm a really good talker. Yeah.
Be like, hey, you
help me out here, But that doesn't really get very far because there's not much incentive for that person.
And when money comes in, there's going to be a very interesting conversation to have, especially when money comes in. Then people start getting stingy, start getting greedy, start thinking, wait, I've been helping you this. Let me get some coin. Let me get some money. And then that conversation is really like just anxiety ridden.
But rightfully so, right? Yeah. Because they're helping out. And when you own an operation, when you're conducting an operation, all you want is to make sure that the people that helped you out, you can help them out back. Yeah. Right? That's really what it is. And I feel like if you don't look at it in that lens, you're kind of doing them a disservice as well as your own business or whatever it is. But yeah, that's why it's like, okay, if you have time, just put your time into it. But don't worry about the result for like 2 years. Yeah. For 2 years, just work. And if you have the time to, if you're young, if you're in your 20s or if you're in your teens, dude, 2 years is nothing.
You have to study the game. And I always tell people, people go to med school for 8 years before they're profitable. Like, you know what I mean?
100%.
And that's before they even make a salary. Like, they're going to be in debt. Most of them are going to be in debt. You still have to pay off loans. So theoretically speaking, that's 8 years. Well, you can't give a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years to try to set up a business, to try to learn how to create a business. Yeah. And obviously, with money nowadays, not everyone has the same privilege to be able to sit at home and just work on that business. But there's ways around it. There's ways you can push yourself, make money, and do it in bursts. You know, people don't realize that. Like, it doesn't have to all happen every day,
Exactly.
all day.
I'd argue with that fact. I'd say now more than ever, it's easier to make money than ever.
Yeah.
You know, we have so many, there's just so many mediums that you can go through to just make money nowadays. And it's ridiculous. Like back in the day, someone wanted to start like a steel company or something, or, you know, a manufacturing company. They'd have to take a loan out from the bank. They couldn't, like, you know, it's massive loans, massive risk. Nowadays, it's like, look, you have $50 to your name. All right, get these 2 softwares, grind out for like a month because it's a subscription-based model.
Yeah.
So you have a 30-day window to really make something happen, get some traction in. Obviously, it's not that easy, but it's now, you know, everyone has a fighting chance to make it work as long as you have some time.
Especially with the internet.
Yes,
that's what really the internet money scheme of like
100%.
Like you said, like there's so many things out there, and I would even argue and pose this question and say, because there's so much ability and so much potential of what you can do, it makes it harder to even focus on one thing. Because the more options you have, the harder it is to actually choose. They've did studies in restaurants where restaurants that actually have less items on the menu do way more in sales, way more, because there's less to choose from. I want the number 6 and the number this and that. There's so many things, right? Oh, there's fries, there's pickles. Listen, there's 3 things on the menu. On a burger, fries, and a shake. That's it. People are going to get burger, fries, and a shake. And it's going to be simple. And we're the same way as humans when it comes to creating something or wanting to do business. There's so many businesses out there to create now, especially with the internet, and so many markets and niches you could enter. But now to focus on one, that's really the hard part.
I think that's the biggest struggle for any business owner, aspiring business owner is, you know, I was talking to my buddy about this too. We were having this similar conversation, and we were talking about how there's a reason why it makes sense to kind of climb a corporate ladder if you're looking at it from that lens.
Yeah.
Right. It's because you clock in, you clock out, you're doing the same things, you're doing things better than you were like day in, day out, and you're consistently doing those same things over time.
And you're consistently getting paid.
Yes. As a business owner, it's like, you know, shiny object syndrome, right? It's like, okay, I'm doing this, but then there's that. Oh, let me try that. And then, you know, you have this project that you've started, and now it's like not even completed, but you're moving on to the next thing. Before you know it, that becomes like a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
You keep kind of aborting on projects and you start new ones, and then that doesn't get you anywhere. So you got to double down on one thing, get it stable, make sure it's profitable, and generating you cash flow. Take that, then move on. You know, it's fine. Or keep it going, bring someone in to like run operations for you, then kind of exit yourself, and it can just run itself as its own entity, and you can just go on and do whatever you want. You know, but people don't look at it that way. So
it's hard though, especially as someone, for example, who's a creative, right? Where the art that you're making, if someone makes music, if someone makes paintings, if someone does any kind of creative work, right? It's very interesting because a lot of the times you're not getting paid for the first 2 years, 3 years of whatever time you're doing anything creative. You want to post on YouTube, you want to post songs onto Spotify, Apple Music, or anything of those sorts. It takes a while to gain that traction. But then everyone's like, oh, they're making easy money. They sit down and they get streams and views and ad revenue on their stuff. But it's like, dude, they also put in 4 years of work before that even got them $1. And like a lot of people, you tell them that, they're like, oh, but it's not making money now. And they'll look at you while you're going through that grind phase. Like, oh, but you're not making money, bro. You're not making money. Like, what are you doing? It's like, I will be making money because I see the vision for it, but just right now I'm not.
Of course.
You know, and it's hard to like understand like when do you choose to do the grind and when do you choose to do something a little more practical where it's like a drop shipping or like a merchandising where it's like buy item for $10, sell item for $15, make $5 profit. Yeah. You know, it's like, so what do you think about that?
I think you need to have a healthy mix, especially in the beginning. Right, because you can't just go all in on a business, and if you don't have income coming in, you can't fund the business, right? Or whatever you're trying to start. So there needs to be that healthy mix of, okay, like look, because if you're working 9 to 5, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and you know, hustle culture is ruining all this stuff. Yeah. But if you're working a 9 to 5, you still have 5 to 9. Like relax, you know, you have 4 hours to work on whatever it is you want to work on every single day. But you know, that comes down to commitment and discipline. So you have to make sure that like you really want it. If you don't want it, you're gonna make up some excuse somehow, some way.
I'm tired of this and that.
Yeah, like, well, work drained me, this and that. Okay, so use that energy and build something of your own, right? Get upset about it. Like if you're not where you want to be, get upset. You know. So, but people don't really. I don't know. They don't think about it that way. And at least a lot of people don't. A lot of people want to do things. A lot of people want to start businesses, and they'll ask, like, all right, how do I do this? How do I get started? I want to start something like what you're doing or something like what he's doing. And I'm like, well, first of all, try to spend more time around those kinds of people. that are doing it, that are living it.
Yeah.
Understand what they have to go through on a day-to-day basis, and just replicate. It's really not that difficult, right? Like there's plenty of money to go around for everybody. I know it's not all about money, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, look, if you want to win in entrepreneurship, the metric of success is revenue, right? So if you want to make revenue, like significant revenue, I think you have to spend time with people that are doing it, understand what they're doing, and just kind of understand what it takes to really win the game, right? I don't think a lot of people understand what it really takes to win.
Yeah, and the sacrifices you have to make to then also win. And it's like people want the glamour, the lifestyle of the nice watch, the fancy cars, and who doesn't want nice things in this life, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like, remember, you're a human being who your life on this earth is limited. So it's not coming with you. Those nice cars and watches aren't coming with you, but the impact you have will stay.
100%.
You know, and it's really special because I feel like for me, when I got more spiritual and really understood like my faith, my religion, my values, my morals, I felt like when I really went into that, my business ideas came to me. And it was so funny because I was like, wait, like I started thinking money. Second I stopped thinking about money, started thinking about me as an individual, money came to me. Business ideas came to me because I was focused more on my value, my purpose, and my mission rather than the coin. You know, and I think that's the first step initially. Because again, when you're young in high school, you were looking at that person like, oh, he's making bread. Oh, he's making money. I want to make money. But then the older you've gone, I'm sure that you've kind of adjusted. You're like, wait, I'm making something, but now I'm generating relationships. So that's awesome.
No, exactly. Like the people you know end up getting you out of different dilemmas more than you would ever imagine, right? Everyone, you have to know people that have answers for you. If you don't, then it's very difficult to kind of, because, you know, there's a lot of advice now on the internet. There's like so many videos. There's a lot of advice.
So much self-help.
Yep, so much. Too much self-help. And the issue with that is when you, and this is another issue that a lot of entrepreneurs face, or business owners, whatever, or aspiring business owners face, is they listen to too many people.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
When you listen to too many people, you end up coming up with this weird hybrid of everyone's views that doesn't work. Because, you know, there's a certain formula that's worked for each individual, and if you're taking something from one person, the other from another person, it's not bound to work that way. So a lot of times I would even say just block out the noise, learn what you need to learn, and just kind of go through it on your own. Right? You don't have to listen to all these people telling you how to do this and that. Just be logical, be intentional, and just figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And the answers will come to you. Right?
What's one way that you think it's come to you? Like naturally, like when you like kind of did that self-work?
I think you have to, and I talked about this before, but you have to be very brutally honest with yourself. If you're not honest with yourself, you end up creating these delusions, right? So you have to understand what you need in order to make something work and what you're missing. It's really that simple. Like in the way I look at it, and obviously it's not, you know, you don't just spend 1 hour thinking about something in the shower or whatever. Yeah. I take hour-long showers. I'm not going to talk about that. But, like you really just have to understand, okay, look, here's where I want to be. Here's where I am. Here's how much time I have. Here's how much money I have. Here's what I need to make this work. How am I going to get there, right? So it's, a lot of people think it's point A to point B, but no, it's like point A is B, C, D. There's all these things in between that you have to, and I'm a big believer in if you're not ready for it, you're not going to get it. Yeah. So, and that's like the story of my life, right? Because I've always wanted the most out of everything. And then I've quickly, I've gotten humbled so many times because I realized I didn't deserve what I was shooting for until I kind of leveled up in that sense. So I think just being brutally honest with myself, that's definitely the biggest thing.
That's awesome. And I could definitely relate with saying like, I didn't deserve that thing, right? And there's so many times in my life where I'm like, yo, I really want this thing to work. I'm waiting for this thing to finish. Working with the developer, working with the lawyer, working with this person. And then I started thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, I'm asking of people to finish their things so hard. I'm like, can they get their part done? Because I'm, again, being the leader of a company or being the leader of an organization, you're telling people to get things done. But then I looked introspectively on myself and I was like, wait, am I getting done the things that I need to get done?
Yes.
Wait, I don't think I'm doing as much as I can. Let me focus on myself. Let them do their thing, right? Control what you can control. And I started focusing so hard on myself, doing different things, getting to different ventures that I wanted to do for a year, 2 years, that I've been keeping on the back burner because I'm saying, oh, let me just wait until that's done, then I'll go do these things. But then I was like, no, let me just do it right away, like pretend that doesn't even exist. And once I started doing those things, I started watching everything else start to accelerate around me. I started becoming the person that needed to be the leader of this company. I started becoming that person emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And I'm like, wait, I realize now why it's not just like a catch-22 where it's like, let me just sit down and wait and hope I get lucky and everyone gets done and things will just happen for me, la, la, la. Like the person you want to be, you have to prepare for that person. Yes. You have to be that person. And I remember someone told me, it's like, write down like your daily schedule 2 years from now. I was like, what kind of weird exercise is this, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, let me try it, right? And I was like, okay, what do I think of myself in 2 years? Okay, I wake up at this time. Why? Because I think that the best version of myself in 2 years would do that. And I looked at the day, right? And then at the end, it's like, okay, now whatever day that is, start tomorrow. That's your day.
Yeah.
And it's like, become that person. Like, you don't have to wait 2 years to become that person you want to become. And it's so real because anytime you talk to people who are successful in a financial metric, right? Because obviously success is limited, not limited just to financially. But when you talk to anyone who's successful monetarily, they're saying, the reason why I got there is because I just started doing the things that needed to get done that got me to this place that I'm in currently. For sure. It's like, and my brother always tells me, he's like, oh, if like you want to be a painter, then go paint.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do.
Absolutely. No, it's you know, the compounding effect, right? So like, at least if you keep doing what you're going to do, or what you kind of have to put your dream self on a pedestal, and you kind of have to like worship that person, right? And you have to be like, okay, cool. Joe Rogan had a really interesting take on this. He's like, you have to imagine that you have a camera crew following you around everywhere.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
You've seen that, right? Yeah, it's very similar to that. You have to perceive yourself, right? Like if you're laying in bed till like 12 like p.m., you know, you have to like be honest with yourself and like, okay, like is this going to get me to where I want to be?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then, you know, a lot of things need to change. But you brought up a very good point about letting experts do their thing. Right? When you bring people into an organization, you're like, okay, I'll wait. I'll let them get, you know, you end up playing this intense waiting game, and that ruins everything because it ruins momentum. Right? Yeah. Business is like, it's usually built on momentum.
Yeah.
Right? These short bursts, they do come and go, but you have to let the experts do their job and you have to stay true to yourself and be like, okay, look, these are my strengths. These are things I can control, like you said. You have to play by your strengths. Same thing if you have a co-founder, same idea, right? You don't want to work with a co-founder that has the same ability as you.
Yeah.
That just kind of defeats the entire purpose, right?
You need someone with different skill sets to match that harmonious chemistry.
Exactly. So same idea, you know, you bring people in to let them do their thing. Micromanaging will kill everything.
Yeah. That's the one thing I hate the most. And it's like, I tend to be very laissez-faire with like, when I hit up my developer, I hit up, hey, like, how are you doing? Like, how's everything going? If he doesn't text me back in a day, I'm not going to be butthurt about it. I'm not going to be like, oh, this is business. This is money talking. No, dude, it's like people are human. He probably is doing a lot of things. Give him that excuse, right? And then things always work out perfectly anyways and smoothly. And it's like giving people that leniency. I always then expect, hopefully, I'll get that leniency in life too.
Exactly.
And it's like, what you give, you get. You know, it's like if I'm on everybody so hard, it's like you could rule with an iron fist or you could rule just, right, rule, because even I don't like that word, but it's like, or you can just be a good leader. You know, like the boss is the one who tells 5 people to pull that rope, but the leader is the 6th person in the front pulling with them.
Right.
You know, and it's like,
100%.
Remember, you have to be a leader of whatever you're doing. And I think with business, I think something people don't realize is anything really could be monetized at this point in life, you know, because the internet and all that. And nowadays with social media, with all these ways you can market to, it's out there. The reach is out there. But I will say this. I think one huge problem now is people stopped valuing that in-person connection that you can make with people because it is on another level.
So what do you mean exactly by that? Elaborate more.
When you meet someone in person, right, and you're actually having a conversation with them,
yeah,
and you're talking business, right, you're not just going to hear them over the phone or this, but you're going to see their mannerisms, how they walk. Say you go out to eat with them, right, and they have a wife, right, and you're single, married, doesn't matter, and he checks out the waitress, you know, he checks her out, he says something, flirts with her, right. Deep down in my head, I'm like, all right, yo, like if I do business with him in the future, if I actually connect with him or do anything, he's kind of cheating on the person he's with, or he's talking lewd about different types of people, or if he insults someone or stuff. It's like, then you got to see their character a little more, you know? Right. And I think that matters a lot with who you get into business with. Definitely. For example, the guy you're with, right, the business partner, you're saying how much you respect him, how much you appreciate him, how much you want him to succeed as much as you.
Absolutely.
But then if someone does that and cheats their person, are they also going to cheat you?
Right.
And that's why it's like really matters. I feel like over the phone, over the internet, it's very hard to gauge people's personality. You really have to communicate and talk with them and be with them, you know? So that's kind of like my perspective on that.
No, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I also think you can get to know people by just giving them something to do.
Yeah.
Right. And just seeing how they go about that particular task or whatever it is that you're doing together. That's how I kind of gauge a lot of people. It's like, okay, look, this guy's very lenient. He needs to be told 3 times before he can get something done. He needs a deadline. Some people don't need deadlines. There's very different kinds of people out there that you're working with. But no, you need to find people that supplement your organization or supplement just your work style. If you don't have that, then you're going to be upset a lot of people, and that's not going to bode well for anyone. But I completely agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
What's something within your own personal business that you've noticed over the last 2 years change that you're kind of trying to adapt to? Because again, as a business owner, you want to adapt and be malleable with life. So
I think this is going to be, so if you're looking for something more structured, I think I'm going to go more on like the spiritual route because patience was massive, right? I've always wanted things now. And it's not like more of an instant gratification thing. It's more of like okay, look, I know things will come, as they're warranted. But the thing is I have this very, I'm an only child. So I have this desire that, okay, I want my parents to see what I built.
Yeah.
I want them to be here for it.
And being an immigrant, bro, being Indian, like I get it because being Egyptian, like you want them to be proud of you. Like you want to show them like this immigrant hustle, this lifestyle. I made you proud, mom and dad. It's like that feeling that they instill in you as like a second-year-old. Like second year born, they're instilling that energy within you.
That's exactly what it is. And I think I've just come more to terms with who I'm becoming and what's happening with like the people around me, and more so that like the organization as well. But it's more so it's really a patience game. Like I've expanded the horizon so much. It's not more of like a 6-month game anymore. I used to do that all the time. Okay, if I do this for 6 months, I'll have X amount, blah, 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 whatever. Now it's like, okay, cool. Look, I'm 22. Realistically, I can mess up the next 2 years and I can still be like 24. Like I'll be all right. I'm still in my 20s. But if I take these next 2 years and I just work hard, then, I can be in a better situation. And I think just being more patient and being able to like nurture my relationships that I have with people is just very, very impactful, because there was a point in my life where I isolated myself from everyone. Everyone. I've even done this to, unfortunately, there was a point where I did this with my girlfriend too. There was a point where, it was just really difficult for me to just open up because I was just so caught up in my own thoughts. She brought it up to me and she was like, hey, look, like you need to talk to me about this. Like what's happening. And I was like, okay, look, here's what's happening. Here's how I feel about everything. And I just want to like shut down. She's like, look, we're building this thing together, like this life. And I think you need to just relax. I think you need to kind of be confident in who you are and just take your time with it, right? Like I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm supporting you. And I was like, you know what? If she's okay with that, like why shouldn't I should be okay with that too? Yeah. And my business partner too. He's like a little bit older than me. But I treat myself as if I'm his age. Yeah. So I can always be a couple years ahead. And I think that's a really important thing that people should do, right? If you're 20, if you're 18, act like you're 25. It's not going to hurt you. Yeah. Because if you act like you're 25, you're going to have that urgency. You're going to have, you're going to have that drive to get things done. And let's say it works out, like perfectly. Very rare, but let's say it works out. At the end of the day, you're still young, but you're treating yourself. You have these extra years now that you've never thought you had. So I think you should play the long game.
It's like growing up mentally is really important, and it's nice because sometimes nowadays when I'm speaking with business owners and I'm talking to guys who are 50 in real estate, I'm talking to guys who have a business. They own 2 bagel shops, 3 bagel shops. So they own this, they own that. And I'm like having these conversations, and I'm having a very simple conversation back and forth about the monetary parts of it, this. And I kind of noticed that the more I talk to them, I'm like, this is more my circle. It's not even just about the age, but the maturity, but it's about the fact that they're doing that thing and you're able to actually have that conversation. And it's awesome as someone who's, again, 22, who can hang with the older guys, because the point is you're hanging because you've already adapted yourself to being more mature within the business realm.
I like to say so, but the thing is that it's more of like obviously my hobbies and my passions outside of work per se are much different than these 50-year-olds and whatnot, because they have a different lens on life that I haven't gone through yet. But there is a level of alignment that we have that they can respect, and I think that's kind of what brings it all together. I think And, you know, that's a big deal too, right? When you're first starting out in business and you're young, people don't take you seriously because of your age.
Yeah.
I had two factors that played, right? So like my name is very difficult to pronounce for, you know, people that live here.
Yeah.
And so every time I get on sales calls or whatever it is, I'm like, hey, I'm Aaryan. They're like, Aaryan? I'm like, no, Aaryan. I'm like, you know what?
They're saying something crazy. They're like,
yeah, just make it AP. And then how old are you? Oh, like, you know, 22. Because, you know, I don't have like a super deep voice. So they're like, all right, like you sound really young and like, you know, you're not one of us. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Let me just, so then it comes down to, okay, let me just build my skill set. If I can build my skill set, you can't really deny that, right?
The credibility of like, okay, this is what I can do. This is what I have done.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, then you get, we're all dealt different cards. So you kind of have to put your best foot forward and you have to make sure people see that.
Yeah.
And once they begin to see that, you have some traction and then you can kind of build on that.
No, that's awesome. And so far, like to this date, like what's like the amount of like revenue you feel like you and your partner have been able to like output and be part of?
So I do work with, for the agency that we started is fairly new in the sense that we've started this like about a year ago and some change. So we're still like working out the nitty gritty details of, okay, how to get clients, like, you know, how do we work out that entire process? Because it's difficult. We first went to cold calling, cold emailing, and, you know, like that's a volume game. It's all a volume game, getting clients in. But with the company that I work for, Clique, in the private equity space, man, these guys are killers, right? Like they're bringing in 8-9 figures a year, and I get to see exactly how they've structured their operations. So it's not more so like, okay, I work with them as a contractor, but it's more so like, hey, look, I have this circle now that I can reach out to at any point, Monday through Friday, right?
Yeah.
I can reach out to these guys, I can pick their brain, and they're willing to help me out with what I have going on as well.
Yeah.
So when you see people bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars per year, you really have no choice but to kind of dissect everything that they're doing.
Yeah, and be a part of it too. Like you're witnessing, you're experiencing, and you're learning as well the whole time.
Exactly, and that's where the value exchange comes in, right? Because it's like, look, I'm taking my skills and I'm getting you guys more revenue in exchange for proximity, in exchange for me to be able to talk to you about these things. And that's what I feel to be very valuable. Is it's not about revenue's cool and all, and obviously that's why, you know, most entrepreneurs work, is they want that freedom. But the way I look at it is, okay, cool, 10, 15 years from now, who do I want to vacation with?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who do I want to like share a drink with? Who do I want to do X, Y, and Z with? And seeing these guys perform at the highest of high levels, right? If I can somehow match that, and if I can show these guys that, hey, look, you know, this guy's very valuable to us. He's brought us a significant amount of revenue per month, year in, year out. Let's bring this guy in on future projects.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when things can change.
That's when you start gaining equity. And once you start getting equity, you start gaining that level of respect within the team. It's like, oh, snap, it's about to level up for you.
100%. And that's why, like, that's kind of how I navigate everything. I'm constantly placing a bet 2 years from now.
Yeah.
That's how I play everything.
And like on yourself.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, cool. What environment do I need to be in for this to pay off in a couple of years? This is the right environment for me. I'm staying here. You know, loyalty goes a long way. So, you know, if I'm able to help these guys, at some point they're going to need something from me.
Yeah.
And I'll be right there to help them out. So I'm in no rush anymore, man. I used to be in a big rush. You know, I need this now. I need this like yesterday. But now it's like, all right, look, we're all doing our own thing here, right? Especially being in your 20s, you see everyone. Yeah. We were talking about this. Like, the dynamic's so different between everyone now. There's such a wide array of things happening. And it's like, okay, cool, look, I can literally just, I could screw off and do X, Y, and Z, and then I'll still be fine. I'll still be 24. Or I can take these next couple of years, stress now, so I don't have to stress later. Yeah. Simple.
My dad always tells me that. He's like, Ali, work hard now, enjoy later. And I'm like, yes. I was 16, 15, looking at him like, what are you talking about? I'm in high school, you know? But at the time, like, he was giving that advice. He was kind of imprinting on me that mentality. And like now when I see like what people around me are doing, my people that I went to high school with or college with, and I kind of like hear about what they're doing versus what I'm doing, I'm like, I live this boring life. I live at home. I just basically work on my things all day, every day, like be doing your own thing constantly, and then like making money here and there where I can, doing that, like you're saying, making that mix, and then dream chasing. Yeah. And it's so weird because in my head, I see the vision and the path, right? But then people, even if they're close to me now, are like, oh, like, well, you're not credible yet, so why are you doing this? Or you're not really making money now with this, so so what's the point? I'm like, okay, you in your head are only seeing that I'm not making it now. It doesn't exist in your realm of existence, right? The physical world. But it does exist in the fact that it's being created. And I think sometimes within oneself, like you realize like, wait, I have to just keep chasing this like vision that I have and say tunnel visioned, because people really do waste years of their lives and they lack accountability. They don't hold themselves accountable for any of their past errors or mistakes. But some people, the most successful people, will hold themselves accountable. Will be like, what did I do wrong in this relationship? What did I do wrong in this business sense? What did I do wrong in buying this and not that? Why was that wrong? How can I do it better next time? And not taking it personal. And I think sometimes people are so hard on themselves and they take their like everything they do so personal. But it's like, dude, we'll all make mistakes, but that's only the only way you're gonna learn. Yeah. So I think that's awesome that you kind of also saw that kind of like dichotomy within yourself and like the patience and everything.
Man, I think it's so necessary. I really do. I feel like if you treat it as like you have to have fun with it. If you don't have fun with it, you're not gonna last. Yeah. Right. You're just gonna be miserable if you don't have fun with it. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, cool. Like if the idea is to 5 years from now, be in this environment, be in this place, penthouse, drive a car, whatever it is that you want to be in. Because the novelty of making it, or making it, right, comes down to reflecting on where you were before. That's the whole point. Yeah. Like there's no, you could, coming from nothing and becoming something, the whole idea is like, okay, like you can sit down with the people you love and be like, oh, remember when things weren't like this?
Yeah, and that's like the hindsight thing where it's like, dude, I remember doing this and I remember being in the room doing the patent. I remember doing this, doing the trademark. I remember, remember we were designing this in the car? Like, remember sitting there with you doing this. And it's like those moments are the moments you'll remember forever.
Exactly.
So, and it's crazy because like that's when you make it, it's like,
right.
But when you're not, you're like, yo, this sucks. Like, I'm broke. Like, I don't got this. I don't got that. I don't have this that I want. And even like the network thing too, where it's like, you want to already be in the circles that you feel like your brain and your body and spirit are in, but you're physically not there yet. Right. But then just keep becoming that. So when you are finally in that circle, it's like you didn't miss a beat. It's that you belong there. And I think that's something that people forget too. Is like the spiritual part of making it is like you have to be prepared for that thing. And when I first started my journey, I started losing friends so fast. And I'm like, why am I losing friends? And 2 years down the line, I started losing relationships. I'm like, why am I losing everything? Why am I losing it? But then I realized that it was freeing up space for the things that were supposed to come in. And I was holding on to things that were burning my hands, holding on to that rope, this tight rope that I'm holding on for dear life. But once I let go, I realized there was so much more on the other side of that rope. And when I did that, it was the hardest decisions I had to make. But those hard decisions now are going to be such like benefits for later. So it's like awesome that like the patience part, because that's something I personally have also learned with business. I feel like these gurus don't talk about, they're talking about like, oh, work hard now, make the money now, you can make $1,000 tonight. Like if you work hard, and it's like, dude, like you can't, it's not just overnight. Nothing, and if it happens fast like that, it's going to crash just as fast. Anything great, it's a steady incline to the top.
Very true. No, I honestly couldn't have said it any better. I think there's so much noise, man. You have to be able to block it out. I think 80% of it is being able to block out noise. If you're able to, because there's so many inputs constantly, right? Like now we have so many pieces of information that we have to like consciously filter through. And a lot of people don't filter. Like,
just accept everything that comes in.
Accept everything. And before you know it, your brain is now this encyclopedia of useless information because it doesn't connect. You're taking one thing from one person, the other thing from another person, and now you're trying to make something like a hybrid model, and it's like, stop. Yeah. Just figure out what you want. Literally take out like pen and paper and just start jotting ideas down. Okay, cool. Here's what I want. Here's what I have. Here's what I need to get there. Right. And just start there. Like I feel like people take these things too seriously. Yeah. And there's people that obviously don't take things seriously at all. Yeah. So it's like this whole spectrum. So you have to really find out where you are. Like I said, the whole bringing it back, brutally honest with yourself. Yeah. Okay, here's what I am. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I need. And the finish line's right there. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's not going to be linear. It's going to be, it's going to be all over the place. Yeah. But when it gets going, it can be exponential. Yeah,
so absolutely.
I think that's what people don't really realize.
Yeah, and it's cool you say that because something I always like talk about with people is the fact that like you could pivot into like any direction that you need to pivot into. Like for example, when I went to university, I was a biology major, and I went in there because obviously like the Middle Eastern, Egyptian, like brown boy dreams, parents. Oh, I want my son to be a doctor. You know, they all want their son to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe it's going to be me, right? So I went into biology. I was good at school. It was easy. So I'm like, all right, let me do it. I'm in these classes. By sophomore year, I'm in like an organic chemistry class. And I'm taking this class, and I'm like, yo, I hate this. And I was, again, brutally honest with myself. And I was like, yo, this just sucks. Like, I don't want to do this. And then I was like, all right, what am I good at? All right, I'm good at business. I've always made money in like the most random ways all my life. Like I've done so many different avenues, but I'm not really caring about like banking or financing and stuff. But I had a friend who had like an internship at BlackRock, I think. And he told me, he was like, listen, if you want to be safe, just go into finance, right? And you can go into anything in business because it's the hardest degree to get. I'm like, word. So I did that, and I literally instantly saw like my next semester I had like a 4.0 GPA, took like 6 classes. I was just going 6, like then 4 classes because I was like I had to catch up on all these credits. But I had so much classes with my biology thing that I was like, let me add some bio. Let me get the minor. At least let me sneak the minor in. And I ended up getting it. And I always tell people like I pivoted, but I was okay with like taking that risk because I was honest with myself. But if I wasn't honest with myself and got that biology degree, like I would have really pinned myself in a really uncomfortable situation.
Right.
You know? 100%. So what about you? Like what did you kind of do when you got to university?
Man, so I went to Penn State for a year, Maine for a year. Then the pandemic hit, came back home, stayed home. For me, it was more of like the university environment for me was so counterintuitive and counterproductive, especially Penn State.
Yeah.
Right. So I had this roommate, love him to death, good guy. But, you know, he was more caught up into the Penn State life.
Like the partying, the lifestyle.
Life and all that stuff. And I get it. You know, you're in college, you're trying to have fun. But for me, it's like, okay, look, I'm done with classes, and I am coming back to my dorm, and I'm working on, you know, these ventures I'm trying to start up. And yeah, I have all these people telling me, Aaryan, like, let's get out, let's do this tonight. I'm like, dude, I can't. So, and it's weird, right? Because at night, I'd be talking to a bunch of killers that are killing it in their respective industries. And in the morning, I'm being surrounded by all these guys that are like shotgunning beers and all this stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, this is not a healthy dynamic for me to be in right now. So I understood that. I was like, okay, look, I need to go back home. I need to tell my parents, like, because my parents wanted me to get that degree from Maine. They were really adamant on that. But for me, it was like, okay, look, in order for me to get to where I want to be, I have to be in a place where I can actually focus. It's
not it's conducive to the environment and also conducive to the things you want out of life.
Exactly. So I had to surround myself with people that wanted the same things as me. Because if not, there's like this distortion, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, like this person's telling me to do X, Y, and Z, and then all of a sudden I'm no fun Aaryan because I don't want to go out. Yeah. I just want to work. But, and you know, the dynamic was so, it was so disturbing for me because, like I said, you know, it's difficult because you eventually become what you surround yourself with. And at the time, I was literally surrounding myself with this Penn State crowd. Yeah, like literally, I was in the mix. Whether I wanted to be or not, I was there. I completely
understand. Literally, where my university was 45 minutes from Penn State.
Okay.
And I was telling people, I'm like, dude, the nearest mosque is 45 minutes away. I was like the only Muslim on campus. Oh man. And then it almost got me out of who I really was as an individual. So that when COVID happens in senior year, we went home. Like I was at the top of my game mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I was buzzing. Like as a person, as an individual, I was so powerful mentally. And then when we went home, like it almost kind of slowed down. But then I realized I needed to slow it down because there was parts of that lifestyle that I was bringing into my future that needed to go away. And like you said, once the environment changed, I changed.
100%.
And once I did change, people were like, oh, like, man, like you don't go out with us no more, Ali. Like you were always the DD, you always scoop us. I'm like, yeah, like I will always scoop you guys if you guys are going to drive drunk or anything, right? But I can't indulge in that behavior with you guys because I don't even want to be of an accomplice to it. Because I don't want to say I support you guys doing this, you know? Because then I felt like this guilty conscience was like, I don't even want to be around people doing that because then I feel like if I don't say something like, hey, we could be better, then they look at me like you said, like Mr. Fun Police over here. Like, oh, he don't want to have fun. Oh, like, oh, you should be so much fun. Like I had friends that even within the last 2 years, dude, it used to be so much more fun. Like, what happened? I'm like, dude, I got focused on the things I needed to get focused on. And these guys who are successful in their industries, like you were saying, like people who are successful who party hard too, but they're like, why don't you have fun with us no more? It's like, I just have a different outlook now. And once that changes for you and you feel it, whew, next level.
Dude, I completely agree. I can flip the switch between being an introvert and extrovert. But I just can't, I can't, for the people that know me, I haven't taken a vacation in probably 3 years, like an actual, like, okay, like time to step away from work.
And do nothing.
And do nothing. It's so difficult for me to do nothing. I feel like the hardest thing for me to do is to do nothing. I get anxious. I get super, I'm just all over the place when I'm doing nothing. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, you know, like, especially detaching from work.
Yeah.
Okay, I wonder how things are going right now. I wonder, you know, who's taking care of this. I wonder, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I had to, but along with patience came different avenues for me to be able to actually enjoy what I'm doing. So, you know, now I pick up different hobbies and things I don't feel like are a waste of my time, but things that supplement my mental sanity in order for me to perform at my best in what I'm doing.
I completely understand, because like people are like I still play like on a semi-pro soccer team in the area, just, you know, because I like playing. I played in college. I enjoyed playing. It's fun. And I still train, go to the gym, do all these things. I don't really like the gym, you know? I don't like picking up heavy things and putting it down. But I know that mentally makes me feel better. I don't like going on runs outside when it's 90 degrees. But I know that it's going to make me faster, more athletic, healthier. The dopamine rush I get after, the endorphins that are firing. So I understand the end result is great. Obviously, the beginning is like, I don't want to do this. I feel, who doesn't want to just sit at the crib, watch a TV show, watch a movie, and eat some chips and some guacamole and do nothing? Everyone wants to do that, you know? Yeah. But like doing those hard things now really in like allow you to be better later. And for me, like when I was focused on making the money, that's my only goal. I started gaining weight. I started feeling unhealthy. I started lashing out on people around me. I wasn't the best version of myself. So like to be at that level, you got to do everything. And you have to make time for play. And if you don't play, like you're going to hurt yourself in the long run, you know? So it's awesome that you say that too. What are some of like your hobbies that you kind of be spending time doing?
Oh man. So I've had a lot of hobbies, man. I used to produce music back in the day. I used to, you know, train like martial arts. Martial arts has been a huge vice for me. Massive. In fact, I don't think I'd be doing anything that I'm doing right now if it wasn't for martial arts.
It's a discipline. That's really what it is.
It is. Especially like the school I went to. So I did Taekwondo. So it's a Korean art form. And I remember like the particular school I went to, they would have you bring in your report cards because they wanted people that were, you know, good in and out of the dojang. That's what they called it. So it was a very traditional art, but I think I loved that because I grew up in a very traditional structure. So for me to adopt that was very easy.
There's a lot of accountability. That's what it sounds like.
A lot of accountability, of course. Because, you know, and it was just something I wanted to be good at. You know what I mean? I was never good at a lot of sports, but I realized, like, you know, kicking someone in the head is pretty fun. Like, it's, you know, I'm not too bad at it. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll pick it up. And now I've recently picked up golf. Golf is, you know, for me, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, Aaryan, you're going to be playing golf, I would have been like,
Yeah, so you got me chopped. Golf?
Yeah, no way. But now, you know, I'll hit up the range. I'm just trying to get better. But man, like, just, you know, things that require me to be there and be present, but I don't have to use my mind.
Yeah.
Right? I just mindless activities that allow me to just be present because I have such a hard time with being present.
I agree.
I'm always thinking about what's gonna happen, what happened. So for me, I'm like, okay, cool. Like I just have to be here, and what's the medium, right? That's gonna allow me to kind of be in that like state of mind. Yeah. For me, it's golf, martial arts. Martial arts, you have to be present. If you're not, you get kicked in the head, right? So you know, it's always those art forms that I really gravitated to. What about you?
No, so for me, like it sounds funny. I was just talking to my brother about this, as that like, obviously I play like footy, like I play soccer, and I love it. But I have this really bad habit of I'm almost too present when I play in any realm. So it could be playing with a semi-pro team. It could be playing with my dad and his friends. It could be playing in a league with like against 30-year-olds, 10, 15-year-olds, high schoolers, old guys. Doesn't matter, right? If I'm playing, I'm a whole other person. And I don't know what comes out of me or what like energy comes out, but I'm so hyper competitive with myself that I also expect that of everyone around me. And I always felt that people also expected out of me to do well. You know, I've always felt like I've had this magnifying glass. So when I play soccer, like there's times I'm like getting mad, and like I never like have like a hot temper in like business or with friendships, and just walking around, I'm like the cool, calm head usually. Even though I'm high energy, I've always been the one that can handle the problems and solve them. But when I'm playing in a game or something, I'll be yelling at the ref, yelling at this person, like yelling at myself, trying to do better, like aggressive, going in like to tough tackles. And it's like, it's so weird that like, it's when I'm most present though. And when I'm most present, that's who I kind of am. Like this like hothead, this like 100% fire on all cylinders person. I've been working on trying to use it as like relax, like vibe, you know? But it's so hard for me just to vibe and play, because then I feel like my game isn't at the same level.
I
like,
hear you.
You know, so it's kind of weird like for me, but that's like honestly what I do for like enjoyment, genuinely. It's like playing soccer, I can do that every day.
That's amazing, man. That's honestly amazing. I get it. The whole like when you're so into the game, you just, you know, you expect. I mean, it's a team game, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be reliant on your teammates. I can't really agree with that in martial art. Everything I've done that I've really enjoyed has been
individual.
Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even the sports I watch, right, they're all solo. Because I hate the idea of having like a team contribute to something, and if one player's off, it ruins everything. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like at least I can understand like. If I'm watching a boxing or like a boxing match or MMA match or something, I can get a pretty good grasp of how the entire fight's going to go or the entire match is going to go from watching the first 15 seconds. You know, watching the footwork, who's coming out with, you know, aggression, who's coming out with, who's trying to pressure. And that's what I really like. I like being able to like call shots. And I think with a team sport, it's like you have every right to be upset, you know, because I get it. Because you expect a lot from other people too, because you're trying to win, they're trying to win. And it's like, I know you're not performing at your best. Get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Same thing in business. It's like, okay, look, like here, man, we need to get this going. Like, let's do this. Like, I don't understand why you're holding yourself back. Like, same idea. I get it.
But that's just kind of how it is. But something I want to ask you is like, what's something in life that you've done that like you're proud of? Oh
man, something I've done that I'm really proud of. There's honestly not much because, and I'll tell you why. Because I try to reflect on the things I've done. But if there's one thing I'm really proud of, it's picking the people that I'm around. I think I've handpicked a lot of people.
Yeah.
I have, people say I have a circle, right? I don't have a circle. I have like a triangle. I have like 3 people.
Yeah.
So
I feel the same way. Yeah.
So I think handpicking the people that I choose to give my time and who I choose to take inputs from has been definitely the biggest thing that I'm proud of. The other thing is convincing my parents that what I'm doing is for the greater good of everyone in the family. I think that's a really difficult task.
Yeah.
And especially, you know this better than probably anyone. It can be really disheartening when people the people you're trying to have benefit the most from your actions don't believe in you.
Or when they even doubt it a little bit, or like they want you to do something more practical.
Exactly. But the idea is, and I take that same mindset, right? It's like, okay, look, my parents came here from India for me to have a better life, right? So for me to go and do something that I don't want to do is like a direct insult to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like, I'm really proud of who I'm becoming. I don't think I'm proud of myself yet. And I think that's how it's always going to be. Yeah.
Because you always look forward to like the best versions of yourself or like the best things that you can achieve.
Of course.
No, that's awesome. And going off that, what is something that most people don't know?
About me?
About you or about like anything in general?
Well, most people don't know. I think there's a huge facade that I think what people don't understand is the value that isolation can bring. There's so much social media noise nowadays that people don't understand how to live with their own thoughts. No matter what you're doing, if you're alone, like, you know, you go outside into a lobby or something and people are by themselves, what are they doing? They're on their phone, right? Like, but being able to like talk to yourself in a productive way and in sort of like a positive manner is so rare. Like, I feel like people can't have internal dialogue with themselves. Because they need that constant dopamine. So I feel like what people don't know, or what I feel like people don't realize, rather than know, I feel like people know, but they don't realize. And I think it's like, look, just spend some time with yourself. Understand yourself. Like, stop trying to put on this image for everyone else. It's not productive for you or anyone else, because you're probably going to make someone else's day feel bad. If you're posting pictures of like you're going on vacation, there's someone hustling out there on Instagram or whatever that sees your post and like, man, I wish I was living that life. But deep down in your head, like in your own head, you're not even happy with where you are, and neither are they now. So it's like, just do your own thing, stay in your own lane. and really just double down on things that work. But I mean, in terms of things that people don't know, man, people think they know everything.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem, right? People, they're like, oh, I know that, I know this. And I'm like, well, do you really? Have you been down that rabbit hole yet? Because it's a rabbit hole. It's not, it's not a tunnel.
Yeah.
So I think no matter what it is, you have to just be able to, in order to do whatever it is that you want to do, you have to be able to detach and attach.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to be very wise with when you're doing what.
Yeah.
So
because you gotta wear different hats. You know, it's
Yes.
like the hat of me going to play soccer is a different hat than when I'm talking to a lawyer. Or the
100%.
different hat when I'm talking to my developer. The different hat when I'm talking to my family. When I'm making dinner. When I'm making a cheesecake. It's like you have to wear a different hat in all things you do. And something that you mentioned that like is really interesting is that like you remember you talked about it's like you have to hit every branch on the way down, right? Like you make all these mistakes, right? And even when it comes down to like ideas, right? The best ideas come in isolation. Why? Because you only have your own original thoughts to think and ponder upon. And nowadays, I always talk about this, like people don't really have original thoughts anymore. All the content on the internet is recycled. Like 60% of the internet is bots.
Yeah.
And if most of the internet is a bot, then it's like how many of that is really stuff that you're consuming? A lot of it. And then the original thoughts are just stuff that's been promoted by everyone all the time. You ever see like videos or like skits or something and like, oh, I've seen this kind of same idea like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And it's like people just keep remaking the same ideas. And it's like no one's creating new things and new content because of the fact that they're forgetting that the point is the passion, And I was speaking with someone and they even said about music, right? Like, why is music back then better? It's like because there was less of this sound that you're supposed to sound like and more of the be creative and have fun with it.
Right.
Now it's like it's rare to find people who are actually being creative and having fun with it. Now it's all about the attention span. Can you lure in people with a gimmick of a thing? But then if I want to make a nice masterpiece of an album that I took all this effort and time on that was the inner depths of my emotions, no one wants to listen to it because they'd rather give me a song every week rather than give me a complete project once every year,
I think the idea of making the music industry into a business, like just kind of piggybacking off what you said, I think that's what ruins it, right? It's the business side. It's like, okay, cool. Like what's going to get the most streams? What's going to get me paid? But it's like the real artists out there, the ones that actually make, and that's a beautiful thing, right? It's like you have to be able to, as a creative, I'm not a creative. I'm a very logistical person. I know I said I used to make music, but eventually I even turned that into a business. People used to ask me, how'd you make that sound? And I would be like, oh, here's my samples I use for it. Do you want it? Sell it to you for $15. Right? So eventually I was
selling
like,
beats, licensing.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like, oh, I like your music. It was just like, hey, I like that sound. So I was like, okay, you know what? If people like my sounds rather than the songs I'm putting out, I might as well just like, make some money on the side or whatever. And I fell into that trap. But as like a creative, you have to put things out that you wish existed.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like people don't look at it from that lens anymore. So I completely understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's even like my whole idea with my business too. It's like I created something that I thought, wait, why doesn't it exist? All right, it's not going to be created the way I think it should be created, so I'll just create it myself.
100%.
And I think like even taking that risk on yourself and being that creative individual is important because it really does allow you to like bring out the best of you, And like you said, some people aren't creatives. That's cool. Like all my life, I've always been like, I don't have any talents. Right, I would watch the talent shows when I'm in elementary school and middle school. I'm like, oh, this girl's singing and dancing. This guy can do this trick. This guy can do this. And I'm looking at these people. I'm like, what? And I sat myself. I'm like, do I have any talents? And then I'm like, what am I talented at? I'm like, And like I sat myself and I was like, I don't think I have any like raw talent. Like I can't really sing or dance all that amazing or any of these things like at the highest level that I think people do. But then to even have conversations is a gift. Like a lot of people don't have social skills. And that's something that I feel like I was blessed with, that I'm able to talk to anyone. And that's why I'm, again, doing a podcast, And like, why? Because I enjoy talking to people, all types of people. And for me, like I would have friends that would come into the gym at my university. And I had a guy who was like 71 and I'd play ping pong with him every Friday. And he'd come in every Friday and I was like, after my shift, 2 to 4, we'll play ping pong. And because after there's no classes on Friday, and everyone's like, yo, Ali, come hang out with us. I'm like, no, I have to play with Siggy. And I was like, who? I'm like, he's my friend. And then one time they came and they thought like one of my friends came, like, bro, you're playing with him? I'm like, yeah, I play with him every Friday. I was like, dude, why didn't you tell anyone you do this? I'm like, I don't know, just a friend I have. Yeah. And like to me, like that, I don't see like the age gap. I'm just like, he's almost supposed to play ping pong. He's actually decent at it. He likes playing. I like playing. Fun, And then like you start making these relationships, start realizing like that is a gift in and of itself. So it may not be a singing, dancing, showboating kind of thing to show off, but everyone has their superpower. Everyone has their gift.
I agree.
And that's something that I feel like so wholeheartedly, that you don't have to just be a creative. You could be this whiz logistics data analytic guy. You could be that whiz Excel. You could be that whiz in the studio. You know, it's everyone has like their own special thing about being self-reflective and having that isolation. Going back to that, and knowing who you are as an individual.
Dude, you hit it right on the head. I think I agree with you too. Like, you know, in school, right? When the first day of school, there's like those icebreaker like sheets that those teachers would give out.
Yeah.
They'd be like, "Oh, what's your favorite song? What's your favorite book? What is one talent about you that you know?" And I'm like thinking, what am I good at?
Yeah.
Like, actually, what am I good at? But you have to be placed in like an environment where you can thrive to understand what you're good at.
Yeah.
So, no, man, like, yeah, you're a phenomenal conversationalist. I can
Thank you. I
attest.
appreciate that. And it's easy to talk with someone who also has information to let out as well. You know, so it's like it goes both ways. Because sometimes like, oh, like you have to carry conversations. I'm like, dude, when you're talking to the right people, like conversation can just happen.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
But one thing I definitely wanted to ask you is that where do you see like the world going in 5 years? And I just want to hear your input on that.
I think, let's talk about AI for a second, right? So I think, you know, there's this whole aura of like everyone has different notions when it comes to this AI stuff. And what is it? Like some people know about it, some people don't know about it. A lot of people think it's going to endanger a lot of jobs, which arguably can be true.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who know how to utilize AI are going to come out on the other side of it in a very blessed position. But I'm also kind of scared because it's not AI that people should be afraid of. It's about the people that are building these AIs that they should be afraid of.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, AI is just a whole bunch of inputs that can result to a desired output.
Yeah.
And if you're able to manipulate those inputs in any way, then it can turn into something disastrous.
Yeah.
So I think we're in a very interesting kind of space of time right now because things can shift a lot. I mean, you know, you look back like 50, 60 years ago, technology wasn't even moving not nearly as fast as it's moving now, right? Like you had your IBM computers the size of like an entire warehouse.
They were giant.
They were huge, right? But now it's like you're utilizing these new technologies that we're coming out with to build new technologies. And that's why it's all exponential and it's going to get scary. It's going to get interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that's why you kind of have to have an open mind. You have to understand how things are working. And you can't get kind of stagnant with learning these new things because now more than ever, things are going to like take off technologically, right?
No, I agree.
So if you can't keep up now, you're going to get left in the dust.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why like me personally is like seeing it, like jobs are about to be cooked. Like I personally believe that jobs are going to be cooked. Like, because if the stock market's already run by a bot, if this Excel sheet can be done by an AI, if there's personal assistant AIs that are coming out, and it's only going to get better because obviously like Moore's law says like processing rates double every 2 years, and then maybe it's leaving a little slower than 2 times, but it's still very fast. The iPhone from 10 years ago versus now is insane. Like literally like a camera 10 years ago and like the iPhone camera now, insane. You know, like being able to shoot in 4K, 60 frame rates and be flawless editing and put it on a gizmo that you don't need to move it around. Like you can create music videos now with just an iPhone.
Yeah.
And people do that now. And it's kind of amazing when you start realizing like with AI, like things are only going to get better and faster than it is now, right? So then imagining like, okay, how do we utilize it to then make our lives better? And knowing that we're in like the 4th industrial revolution, we're basically knowing that there's going to be the greatest wealth transfer in human history right now. So it's like, as someone who's young, right, your early 20s, like you were saying, we got to be up to date. Like, you got to know, like, yo, it's happening now, whether you like it or not. Either you go out to the bar, drink, waste your time, and do these lame, pointless things, or, like, focus on your future. Focus on, like, what are you about to build for life? How are you going to set yourself up for 10 years of success? And, like, it's awesome that you kind of, like, see that and, like, use as someone who's like, nah, utilize this AI because it's here.
It is for sure. Like now, you know, you see people building these tech companies, right? And people are like, oh, I don't know how to code. I can't do that. Well, yeah, and you know, and a simple solution is, oh, get people that know how to do it. But nowadays, it's like you can build a no-code SaaS. Like you can literally build a tech company from the ground up without a single person in your organization actually knowing how to code, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And I think AI is just going to blow all of it out of the water. I really do think so. Like we're actually looking at right now, well, at least I'm kind of considering it. We're trying to fill this gap in our sales process with strictly AI. Just automate everything. Follow-ups with clients, whatever, just strictly AI. And if that works out the way we intend it to work out, we don't have to bring on a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of scary to think about. But at the same time, it's like, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll really see. It's such a volatile time we live in right now. We'll see what happens, because at the end of the day, it's the people who are behind these big, huge projects. They have the power to manipulate a lot of things in the coming years. So we don't have to regulate AI. We have to regulate the people that are behind these projects.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that, you know, they don't wake up one day all upset and just start putting in some disastrous inputs.
Yeah. And it's crazy you say that, because even then, like looking at like the Apple Vision Pro that's are going to come out soon and stuff, when I looked at that, I was like, you were entering a Black Mirror episode like yesterday. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, dude, there's really like dual monitor, you know, like monitors and stuff is like a thing now. So you have monitors connected to your computer. It's like, dude, it's literally a headset where you literally can create multiple monitors, movies. You could literally relive photos and memories within like a 3D escape. Like you see it happening. I'm like, what's that going to do to people's minds? Like, it's going to affect people. It's going to have people living in this like little bubble of just in their individuality, right? But then to do anything in life, you need people, you know? And like people are going to live in this very like circle. And I was talking to my brother about this, and then my friend brought up a similar point. And my brother, like years ago, he was like, dude, you know what people are going to do in the future? I'm like, what? You know, like, cause I'm entertaining him. He's like, dude, people are going to live stream 24 hours a day. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, people are just going to live stream every day, just live stream. And then I think 3 days ago, I had a friend who was like, yo, some guy, FouseyTube just did a 7-day live streamed for 7 days straight. And it was crazy. That was 3 or 4 years later than when my brother told me people were going to start doing that. And it's crazy because now with the Apple Vision Pros in the future and AR and VRs, there's going to be me personally, right? It's what I think is there's going to be a groups of people who are watchers and a group of people who are livers. The people who are livers are the famous people, right? They will wear these headsets. They will literally live their life how they normally do, stream it to these headsets, and people like be a rapper for a day, pay whatever, blah, blah, or subscribe, or, you know, anything, right?
I gotcha.
They're part of this. Now, this person's a liver. This person's, you know, the dreamer, like the person just watching, you know? And like, granted, it's fun to watch someone play a video game that you're not the best at, but watching someone be great at it is fun to watch, you know? But it's going to evolve to a very interesting and dangerous area where we're going to have watchers and livers.
So you think it's going to be really heavily polarized?
Yeah, I think it's going to be that bad, because again, it's like the class system where it's going to be people, the wealthy versus the non-wealthy. And the problem is people have to be seeing this coming, you know? Like, it's not just in your Black Mirror, or it's not just like, oh, this might happen. Right. But dude, things are changing. Be ready for the change. And like we said, in anything in business and anything in life, you have to adapt. So it's awesome they kind of have that idea like behind it too. So absolutely, man. No, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting few years, interesting 10 years, 20 years. Yeah. By the time we're 40, 50, I don't have a clue what it's going to look like. So you really don't know at this point. We know where it's kind of going, right? 5-10 years, you can kind of guesstimate it. But after that, honestly, you really don't know which route, what avenue, done.
We live in an information society, right? So like we have to, as long as you're updated with what's going on, you then are in a position to make calculated decisions. If you're far behind on what's going on, then man, you're awakening. So. And
the scary thing is a lot of people, dude, because they're so wrapped up in their daily lives, they never see what's happening next year. They never see the things that are being built and approved for 10 years from now. They don't look at all those things. And it's like, why don't you? It's because they're so focused on the now, that they forget to plan for their future.
Man, some heavy words there, but it's true. It's very true. How do you feel about, for example, how do you think your life's going to look like in 5 years from now? Or how would you want it to look like?
So me personally, in 5 years, like the main thing is like to have like my religion like set up. Like, you know, I'm still outputting at the highest level I can, learning as much Quran as I can, like doing all the righteous things, being the best version of myself, donating more, being like a righteous person. That's like my number one goal, vision, dream for myself. Because someone who's like learned from his mistakes, like I see now the difference of my life when I'm righteous and doing the right things versus when I wasn't. And like it's miles different. And you know, and like I think that is the number one thing like I actually want. More than wealth or money or status, it's that relationship with like the creator. I think that's like me personally, my like number one thing. Obviously, like monetarily, I want to live somewhere where I could be comfortable. I want to have a family. I want to have a kid, God willing, inshallah. Like I want to have that lifestyle too, even though I know the life I'm bringing that kid into could be scary and dangerous. I shouldn't be afraid of what life has to offer. I should still be the strongest version of myself to then support that kid in no matter what, or a wife, you know? So I think that's kind of like where I see myself in 5 years, in the sense of like as an individual who I want to be. Like, what about you? Like
5 years, man, I just want to settle down, honestly. I'm not very religious yet, right? So who knows? Like that might be something I want to get into, because my parents are very religious. But 5 years down the line, I want to just kind of get out. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do, right? And the idea is, I've told plenty of people this. The freedom, yeah. But the whole idea for me is to be in a position where I can do whatever I want, and whatever I want being, I want to teach little kids martial arts. Like I want to teach, like, you know,
protect themselves and be like,
yeah, just because I have such a passion for it, and I just want to be able to teach like younger kids like how to protect themselves and how to have discipline, right? And how to go through those hard things in life and to set themselves up. Because if, like I said, martial arts for me is the foundation for everything that I do. If it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd become the person that I'm trying to become, or whatever it is.
Makes a lot of sense. And it's honestly very admirable too, because again, like, to take care of yourself, to be able to protect yourself is very important.
You can walk into any room and know that, okay, look, I'll be all right.
Yeah. So something that I always ask again is like, what is like an unpopular opinion like you have? And the thing you wrote down was, you said like hustle culture is garbage. Yeah. So I kind of want you to like describe like why you believe like hustle culture is just garbage.
Man, hustle culture is garbage. I think I think it's hustle culture is making everyone miserable. Because we're constantly comparing ourselves to people like 16-year-olds that are making $100,000 a month and all this stuff. And it's, as long as people understand that they're on their own timeline, hustle culture, there's no room for hustle culture.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, you have your Gary V's of the world that are saying, oh, if you're not spending, I don't even eat because it's not productive.
Dude, I cannot stand him sometimes.
You know, I don't sleep because it's not productive. Well, it's like, dude, like, the idea is longevity, right? Like, if it's longevity and you want to, on a long enough time scale, you want to be able to achieve whatever it is that you want, don't get burnt out. And hustle culture does exactly that. Like, you're gonna lead yourself to a massive burnout, and you're gonna be like, oh, you know what, this isn't for me, and you're gonna quit. All because of a notion that was like telling you to get you to where you want to be in the first place, which is so counterintuitive. Yeah. So I think, you know, and I fell into that trap too.
Yeah, likewise.
I fell into that trap. I was like, okay, I need to work, and I still feel that way. But at the same time, I'm able to control it more. I'm able to have fun.
There's a balance. There's a balance in life. Yeah.
If you're like, the most miserable people I know, they're on vacation thinking about work, and they're working thinking about vacation. Yep. That's ridiculous to me. Yeah. You know, it's like, do what you're there to do. Like, if you're working, you're working. If you're on vacation, you're vacationing. Yeah. Simple as that. Don't mix the two. Yeah. I think hustle culture really ruins that.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I agree, because like, even for me, like, something like it's so hard for me to understand sometimes is like the timeline thing, right? But then obviously there's like those posts where you see them, it's like, oh, by the way, if this person made their first billion at 65, this person made their wealth at 22, this person did this, and it's like, for example, like people who are like wrote a book, they didn't make their first book until they're 52, but now it's in every movie, bestseller, #1 on every chart. But that only started when they were 50 something. Yeah. I'm like, dude, like, your timeline isn't like massive. Like, just with what you're doing, do the best you can do in the moment you're in, and achieve what you can achieve in the time being you're in. And I think, like you said, like, hustle culture takes away from that, and it almost doesn't allow people to like live, you know. And like, people forget, like, life is still meant to be lived, you know, not just work, croak.
Yeah, you know? I mean, dude, I fall into that category too, though, because for me, it's like, remember what I was saying? Yeah. I want my parents to be able to see what I build, right?
So for me, time crunch and limited, I completely understand.
So you have the time crunch because you want things to happen, right? Movers and shakers, they want things to happen constantly. But then it's like, okay, but you also have to relax. Yeah. So it's like, okay, what's it going to be, right? Am I going to be miserable in order to seek like that destination to make these people happy, or am I going to just kind of take my time with it and then hope that it happens within the time that I want it to happen in? Yeah. So you have to find the balance. That's really where it is. It's difficult. I don't think anyone ever does, but for those that have, I'm jealous.
Yeah, so, kudos to them. Yeah. But so again, on the Oly Kanoli Show, 2 things that I do is I would ask the guest like a quote and a word you want to learn in Arabic. And the word you want to learn in Arabic is congratulations. And it's an awesome word because I feel like congratulations is like congrats are in order. You know, it's like congratulations. Right. So, but in Arabic, the way I would say it would be like to say it to individual, someone is mabruk.
Mabruk.
Mabruk. And
Okay.
it's amazing because like it's like mabruk, mabruk alik. So it'd be like it's like congratulations to you. Alik would be like to you. So it's like congratulations is mabruk. And the quote you said was, "Every man lives two lives. The second one starts when he realizes there's only one." So can you kind of go into that, why you chose that quote?
It rings very true to me, right? We're talking about the whole patience thing. We're talking about just kind of becoming, the person that you've always wanted to become. And I think there's a point in everyone's life where you realize, like, oh my God, like, this is my life.
Yeah.
And it sounds pretty stupid, right? It sounds idiotic. Because, like, yeah, everyone knows that. But no, it's a point of realization, I think. Because, like, oh, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be fine. And then once you realize, like, oh my God, like, this is, you get no second chances, right? So it's like, okay, fair enough. Like, everything I want to do, I'm going to do it now. And I think it's such a powerful state of mind to be in. And I think I was watching like a Neville Ravikant, like a podcast, and he said it. And I was like, it's not his quote, it's someone else's quote. Like Seneca or something. That could be wildly incorrect. But it rang so true with me because I'm sure you felt that way too, right? At a certain point in your life where you're like, okay, look, this is it. Like, oh my God, like, you know what? I'm here. Like, let's do this.
It's like a metamorphosis. Like, it just clicks.
Yes.
I think for me, like, it's weird because it's happened in stages where, like, at one point I'm like, yo, I know who I want to become now. Like, I see the vision for myself in the future. But that versus how I feel now is I know who I am for the now into the future is so different.
100%.
And like, it clicks and it happens. But
Definitely, man.
just awesome quote. And I just want to thank you again for coming on to the podcast, talking business, talking shop, letting you know how... just like how to really create a business, how to really, and not just a business, but create yourself to then create whatever you want to create in life.
100%. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So thank you guys again for tuning in to another episode of the Oly Kanoli Show. Today was, again, Aaryan A.P. Patel. So again, please leave so many friendly comments down below. It was a great conversation. And if you guys have any questions for either of us, please leave them down below in the comments below, all right? And if you want to be where he's sitting, in the description, there will be the link. Apply to it. I would love to have a conversation with you. Thank you guys again for tuning in to another episode of the Oly Kanoli Show, and I'll see you next time. See you later. Bang.